back to my channel. Today we will be seeing another video of the United States. So before we get into this video, welcome to Mosville Ballet. Before we get into this video, make sure you subscribe, turn the post notification, and give me that big thumbs up button and give me the bell. So guys, this video, the title of this video will be the richest state in the USA. Let's go.
I don't want to grow up, because maybe if I did.
Okay guys, as I said, I know few states like that are rich, like Texas, California, and New York.
I wouldn't be making YouTube vids. Man, becoming an adult blows. Who misses having mom bring home your favorite snack, or when dad got you that cool bike? Sometimes you'd get stuff just for asking, and you certainly didn't have to earn it. Even after college, you used to be able to screw around without any real repercussions. Then at some point, instead of being able to ask mom for help paying your student loans, you were suddenly on your own. The real world is real expensive, especially for kids.
Some places are so expensive, guys. It's right. Some places are so expensive. The real world is so expensive. So you need to work so hard. You need to work to achieve your dream. So hard at school. You need to work in high school, middle school, kindergarten, and college hard to achieve your dream. Let's get into this video, guys.
Coming out of school these days, I can't imagine struggling to try to save money while pulling in $45K on a history major salary. Well, if you're striking out on your own soon, or you just want to be nosy, we've got you covered in today's video.
Okay guys, comment down below if you live in this state that will come up right here. Comment down below.
Today we're going to talk about the most expensive states you could live in America. You can probably make a guess as to a few of them right off the bat. They're the places where childcare costs are crippling, rent is through the damn roof, and where owning a car is a burden. They're the places where you need to make a lot of moolah if you want to just exist. So get ready to count your pennies and make a list of the things you're going to cut back on as we begin our tour of America's most expensive states. We begin our journey across the most expensive places to live in our fine nation and the state of Alaska. Why the hell would anyone want to move to Alaska anyways? Well, if you're dead set on living here, you should know it's not going to be easy to hack out a living.
Comment down below if you live in Alaska.
Unless you quite literally hack out a living, that wouldn't cost much, but you'd probably be cold. Just what makes the last frontier such a pain in the rear to survive financially? Well, to analyze the cost of living for each state on this list, we looked at the MIT Living Wage Calculator. This is the easiest way to try to understand how much you need to earn each year to live comfortably. As you can see on this chart, one person needs 26 grand a year to live a decent life in Alaska, but a family of 4 needs 74 grand a year to not struggle. They even break it down into the hourly wage you need to earn in Alaska. If you live alone, you need to make about 12.
Comment down below if your dad or your mom make those monies if you live in Alaska.
$89 an hour. If you have kids at home, you need to make about $42.40 an hour. Okay, now that we've established how all this works, we can have a little fun trying to figure out why Alaska and other states are so expensive and try to see what types of jobs you can do in these states. In Alaska, we have good news and bad news. The bad news, if you plan on having multiple kids in Alaska, your child care costs are going to be through the roof. Just one kid a year in Alaska will cost you more than 10 grand a year, the third highest child care bill in the nation. Of course, many people in Alaska choose to rear their own kid at home, and for some reason, the cost of owning a vehicle in Alaska is about $4,200 a year, also the third highest rate in the US. Now, you don't have to have a car in Alaska, but you're going to have to find some way to get around, right? The good news? There's no income tax in Alaska, so that's great. Plus, everyone in Alaska gets a check from the government from oil proceeds. It's called the Alaska Permanent Fund. A few years back, when oil prices were high, some families of 4 got like 10 grand. If you live in Virginia, you know, it's a pretty expensive state in which to live.
Comment down below if you live in Virginia.
If you're thinking of moving here, there's a lot to consider. A family of 4 would need to earn about $35 an hour combined, or about $72,000 a year combined, in order to live outside of poverty. To put that into perspective, in America's most inexpensive state to live, Mississippi, a husband and wife could each hold jobs paying $13 an hour and bring in $55,000 a year combined in order for their family of 4 to live outside of poverty. A real big difference. Here in Virginia, the annual cost of owning a car for one person is the highest in America, at about $4,600 a year. Annual average housing costs are about $12,500 a year in Virginia, the 5th highest housing cost in America. It really starts to add up, doesn't it? Now, if you live out in the sticks, like about half of Virginia's population, you can probably save money on clothing costs. Camo's damn cheap. However, if you're trying to keep up with the Joneses in the DC metro area, you're going to be buying heels and suits all the time.
So anyways,
He's lost his mind. This place is a shithole.
damn, P-Pop likes what P-Pop sees, and P-Pop wants to pop your P, baby.
I'm gonna pop some tags. Only got $20 in my pocket. You're gonna probably start shopping at the thrift store yourself if you live in the states that are further and further up this list. Love crunching numbers? You probably won't want to look too closely at the numbers in Colorado. For some odd reason, food prices in Colorado
Comment down below if you live in Colorado.
are higher than anywhere else in the country except Hawaii. You can plan on a family of 4 spending 10 grand, or about $900 a month, on food alone. However, the good news, if you go to Coors Field in Denver, beer prices are the cheapest in all of America at about $3 each. Now, the people dealing with outrageous prices in the Denver area won't agree, but overall, annual housing costs in Colorado are the cheapest of any other state on this list. Whether you rent or own, you'll pay somewhere about 10 grand a year on average for housing costs. Obviously, the snobs in Aspen pay much more than that. Some of them pay like 10 grand a month for their mortgages. To live a decent life in Colorado, mom and dad need to bring in about $17.50 an hour each, or 73 grand yearly combined. Now, 18 million jobs paid less than $10 an hour in America, but there's no way people in Colorado could exist on a fast food wage or as a cashier, at least comfortably. I found this interesting chart. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has every job in America broken down by average hourly wage. Anesthesiologists top the list, making an average of $128 an hour. Now, you don't need to earn that much to live in Colorado, but you'd need to earn about the same wage as, say, a pest control worker or even a teacher to live outside of poverty here. So does that mean striking teachers are earning enough to live comfortably then? Let us know in the comments below. Where's our next most expensive state to live? That would be the Garden State itself, New Jersey.
Comment down below if you live in New Jersey.
Here in Jersey, the average cost in the Big Six, food, childcare, cars, housing, medical, and taxes, are in the top 5 in every category, especially healthcare costs. New Jersey's tied with Massachusetts for the highest annual healthcare costs at about $7,700 a year for a family of 4. Well, just don't get sick and you should be okay. Housing costs aren't anything to sleep on either, especially if you're renting. If you want to share a 2-bedroom place in Jersey, expect to pony up about $900 a month each.
Did you know New Jersey has the nation's 6th highest income taxes and 1st highest property taxes?
First highest? Is that even a word? Most people knew that stuff already, Mappy, but thanks for chiming in for nothing. Sometimes I wonder if I pay you too much.
Hey!
To live a lower middle class lifestyle in New Jersey, you and your spouse would have to bring in about $75K a year on average, or about $1,825 each. Job-wise, that means you'd be working as a small engine mechanic or as a dental assistant. And if you didn't have a decent job, you'd likely be eating Wawa every day. Not that that's such a bad thing, though. I shop at the dollar store because I am really poor. My car got declined, my bills I'm behind. I shop at the dollar store. Hey, nobody's gonna judge you if you shopped at the dollar store, Connecticut residents. I mean, Lordy, the cost of living here
Comment down below if you live in Connecticut.
is sky high. A couple with 2 kids would have to make about 76 grand, or about $1 grand more than their New Jersey neighbors to live comfortably. You could be an animal control worker, or one of you stays at home to save an estimated 13 grand a year, and you get a job as, say, a social worker. Either way, you're not going to save a lot on those salaries in Connecticut, that's for sure. Sure, places like Bridgeport or New Haven will be far less expensive than, say, Greenwich, where you need about $110,000 a year to live comfortably. One good thing for everyone, though, is President Trump's new tax plan, which is putting more money in everyone's pockets. Here's an example for a Connecticut resident. Let's say Mappy makes about $67,000 a year. Mappy's going to pay about $2,000 less now than before Trump's new tax plan. A real big difference. Not that I pay you $67 grand a year, Mappy. That's like all my YouTube money for a whole week.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if you actually sat down and talked with missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
We're about halfway through our list, and the cost of living is getting higher and higher. If you live in Maryland, you'll probably nod in agreement when we tell you your cost of living is massive. To earn a decent...
Comment down below if you live in Maryland.
living, and not have to ask family, friends, or the government for extra money. A family of 4 in Maryland needs just over $76K on average to survive. But we can actually look at that for different areas to compare Maryland versus Maryland. If you live in Hagerstown, looks like $76K would do you right. You won't be ballin', but you won't be broke either. Just enough to splurge on something cool every now and then. Now, if you live in Dorchester County, you can get by with far less, about $72K a year. And if you live in the DC metro area, Maryland, well, you better have a good job, because it'll be tough to keep your head above water. What makes the cost of living so high in Maryland anyways? Pretty much everything. But Maryland taxes are the second highest of all states on our list today, at about $5K a year. If you're the only Marylander bringing home the bacon at your house, you better get a job as something like an elevator installer or a nuclear medicine technologist to afford to live here. And I don't know too many nuclear medicine technologists. Maybe aim lower, Maryland guy? Real estate broker? You can always take the kids to an Orioles game. Hot dogs are some of the cheapest there out of all Major League Baseball parks. Is this your car? Is this your idea of a night out? Well, sounds like you're strapped because you live in Massachusetts. Here's what's
Comment down below if you live in Massachusetts.
interesting about Massachusetts. A lot of people there complain about the high taxes and they call it Taxachusetts. But Massachusetts actually has the lowest taxes of any state we're going to talk about today except Alaska. But what really gets you in this damn state is the cost of healthcare and childcare. On average, a Massachusettsan can expect to pay about $7 grand a year for healthcare costs and about $16 grand a year in childcare. Man, if that's not birth control advice, I don't know what is. A typical Massachusetts family would have to earn about $77,000 a year to eke out a living. For fun, there's always a Sox game. Here's a fun breakdown of what it would cost to go to a ball game at Fenway, and it looks like the average Boston resident would have to work about half their day to afford it. I can't find a date at all, and my apartment's really small. $50 is all I got. New York sure does cost a lot. I made that up, since you guys like my singing so much. I stole it from the Heathcliff cartoon intro. Welcome to New York, which is the third most...
Comment down below if you live in New York City or New York. Just New York or New York City, whatever.
expensive place you could live in our fine country. In New York, childcare is $23 grand for 2 kids a year. What the? How in the hell do people afford just that alone? Taxes here are no joke either. This is the second highest tax state on today's list, where the average family can expect to pay about $5 grand a year in income taxes. Now, if you live in Franklin County, New York, you might as well be in Canada, but your cost of living needs would be fairly doable. But if you wanted to live in the New York metro area, look out, pal. Housing, medical costs, and food are really, really high in the Empire State. And what about cigarettes? Those cost like $15. A simple dinner is $40 a person. Young professionals in New York City have to eat ramen until they get their next paychecks. You can understand why when apartments cost like $3 grand a month for a real dump. For fun, if you have anything left at the end of the day, you could go to a $100 Broadway show, or $35 to get to the Bronx Zoo, or $30 to get to the top of the Empire State Building. No wonder New York natives stay away from the tourist trap crowd. Well, at least if you live in many areas in New York where it's the most expensive, you can not own a car. That helps save some money. Way out west, California certainly isn't a walk in the park either.
Comment down below if you live in California or Los Angeles. California, Los Angeles, whatever.
Mister. Taxes, housing costs, and childcare are all in the top 5 in the nation. Food costs are tied with Colorado as the most expensive, although I don't know why more Californians just don't eat burritos all damn day. And housing costs are on par with New York, where you can expect to pay, on average, 13 grand a year. But try living in an actual real city in California, where you'll pay closer to 3 grand a month on rent or mortgage. Most professionals can't afford to live near downtown LA or San Francisco and move out into the suburbs, which means longer commute times, which means more working hours. It's a never-ending cycle. What is surprising about California is the average healthcare costs, where a family of 4 can expect to pay about 13 grand a year. That's not bad in comparison with other states on this list. A family of 4 needs about $40 an hour between both working parents to stay out of poverty. And you can basically double that if you want to live near an actual real city. Required income before taxes in Cali, as the cool kids say, is 81 grand. And where's our most expensive state in which to live in America? Hawaii is. In Hawaii.
Comment down below if you live at the islands of Hawaii. Come down below. And your state have some amusing history, like the royal family of Hawaii. Go check that out. And the Palace of Hawaii.
Housing costs are around 15 grand a year, which isn't surprising since the average Hawaii home is more than $600,000. Income tax and property taxes are the highest in the nation, and since there's a shortage in childcare here, you can expect to pay like 9 grand a year per kid. Have you ever visited Hawaii? A gallon of damn milk's like $8. Dinner's like 50 to 60 bucks, depending on how many drinks you have. And gas is going to be some of the highest you'll see in America too. Much of these commodity costs are because Hawaii's on an island, and it costs a lot of money to get things there. Sure, it's a pretty place, and there's hula girls everywhere, and you can see kangaroos and polar bears right outside your front door, but gee whiz, what a price tag it comes with. That's it, our expensive tour of America.
Okay guys, if you like this video and if you live in those states, come down below and make sure you subscribe, give me that big bell and that big thumbs up button. Then from there guys, see you next video.